Well, hello there, and welcome to day 89 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And today I am once more delving into award season filmmaking with the BAFTA, multiple BAFTA nominated Rocks. So this is directed by Sarah Gavron, where she worked with a number of actors and actresses who, frankly, are if they're not first timers, they are. There are some people who this is their first film credit, and very early stage acting credits. Early performers, and a lot of the narrative works primarily around the character of Rox, played by Bukka Bukray, who's living with her mother and brother, and then one day her mother just decides to walk out on them, and she comes home and finds a note saying, "Oh, I've gone. I'll be gone. I don't know how long. Here's some money." And what you see in this is the story of a teenager with a child brother, basically watching her world implode. What I really like about this film is, like I say, Sarah Gavron really works hard with the actors to create that almost improvised sense of authenticity. It has, as I think I mentioned in Vera Drake, in terms of dialogue, you get lots of scenes of people, a plethora of conversation, where you have lots of different people talking. Now the audio is focused so that the characters who you need to hear you can hear, but it's not structured in a way so that dialogue is clear. Like I say, there's something very improvisational about it, and consequently you don't feel like you're being given a character piece. You almost feel like you're following this girl as she lives everyday life, almost documentary style. But then things begin to unravel for her. As I say, you watch her life implode, really. And the thing that the film does as well is it establishes really subtly things that other films would telegraph in a really obvious way. For instance, this girl is someone who isn't. She's actually seemingly quite a hard-working, or at least a high-achieving student. She's top set. Like for instance, we know that she's top set in at least one of her subjects. She's a prefect, and this sort of information isn't, like I say, telegraphed for us. It's just things we pick up as we're observing her everyday life. And so she's fairly stable as a person before, or as I say, she has a good group of friends, and it really spends time focusing on just her spending time with her friends in different social settings. And as I say, the dialogue isn't presented in a way that you go, "Oh, well, this is this person and this is how their relationship works." You're thrown into scenarios where you learn about her and her social group, to the point where you learn things like the fact that she is trying to earn money by doing makeup for friends and family, and then as an extension people who then learn of her through things like Instagram. And once you've established that, once the implosion happens, what you're then watching is this girl trying her best to maintain normality for her and her brother as much as possible, as everything just collapses for her. Initially you're following her, she's staying in her apartment, her mother's, the apartment she lives with her mum, but then the electricity gets cut off. She can't find the money which her mum left for her, and so you're just watching things like that, where more and more you see this girl struggling and yet trying to keep afloat. we're quite well aware, without it being explicitly stated, that this is the kind of child who doesn't want to go into care, who, like a lot of these kinds of stories, is the kind of child who, for herself and particularly for her and her brother together, she doesn't want to be caught in the social services system, and many dramas explore why that might be, but it's like I say, it's never stated. It's just it is. You just accept the fact that this is something she's trying to avoid, and like I say, I have to say, Bucka Buckaroo, really, as someone who this is her first feature film, considering she carries this film, you like I say, follow her in a documentary, almost documentary style of presentation. There's something really authentic and layered in her performance, and there's something that has to be truly credited, that you really see this girl struggle and yet try her hardest to maintain some semblance of her life, whilst you're watching everything just get worse and worse for her. And I have to say, even her younger brother, Emmanuel, the actor who plays the brother, this is an actual child actor, no younger, no older than say 10 or 12, if even that. And yet he really does, and I know this is a strange thing to say, but he does feel like he's playing a child. And when I say that, what I mean is, insofar as when you have a lot of young child characters, there is a tendency either to make them a mouthpiece for the writer, or almost these obnoxious, what adults think children speak like. I mean, you could refer to them like ways that they've tried to get around that, of course famously with Outnumbered, where they established scenes which allowed the children, who of course are the comedic centre of that sitcom, to improvise so that it felt more authentic. But often, because they're being written, young children really struggle to believe this is how a young child would act. And in this case, honestly, he's a very frustrated. Like any child, there are moments where he is incredibly frustrating, and he's always talking or doing things, or and there are moments when there's a sweetness to him, and there's a sweetness between the relationship between Rox and her brother, and that can easily slip into frustration, because like any child, he's always on. And when she's trying to process her emotions and trying to process her situation, he's still a child and is still doing things in the background, and to the point where the camera will sometimes just follow him doing stuff while you can see her in the background just trying to work out what to do next. And so at the core of it is their relationship, and they genuinely do have this real strong chemistry, and you see why she is struggling to, and yet desperately trying to keep together with her brother and protect him, and protect him from the outside world and the knowledge that things are as bad as they are for them. It's funny, really. I kept thinking the portrayal of vulnerability is quite a difficult thing to do, and because it can, like with the writing of children, when you portray vulnerability, there is a tendency, of course, to slip into melodrama or to write how we would perceive it. And this made me think back to the film that I saw a few years ago called Ellen, which very similarly tried to portray an authentic image of vulnerability, and how a child can seem self-sufficient or strong, and yet they are the definition of vulnerable. And as I say, this is very much in a similar wheelhouse, because you see Rox and you desperately want her to succeed. You actually, on some level, as you're watching her, knowing, taking a step outside the narrative, knowing the safest and the best thing for her would be to go straight into social services, because of spending the time with her and, as I say, engaging with her and her performance, you genuinely slip into the habit of thinking, I just want her to get what she wants, and I want her to achieve, to succeed, even though success for her would mean avoiding social services and maintaining this facade until her mother potentially comes home. Like I said, with the scenes where it's all lots of people together, you also have these dialogue scenes. There's one particularly with her and her friend. Is it Shaira or Shamira? Samaya. With her friend Samaya. And what I like about this scene is, and this I'm fairly confident must be improvised by the way that they speak to each other, but they're trying to. So her friend is trying to get through to her that she is in, by trying to live this lifestyle, she's putting herself in danger, and that she needs help. And the friend is desperately trying just to say, look, you need to talk to somebody, or you need to get help. And you're seeing Rox desperately trying to explain why she doesn't want to do that. But what I like about it is neither of them really have the ability to explain how they feel, because they're normal people, they're normal kids who don't really know how to explain they don't have to get across what they mean. And in that confusion of meaning, the frustration between them and the tension starts to escalate, because they both have genuine points for why they think, why one thinks that the other should get help, and the other one thinks and why Rox is trying to say, I don't want to put myself in that position. But as I say, they can't explain it, and so they kind of end up going around in circles. And in less good hands, that will come across as really frustrating. But as you're watching them, you genuinely understand what they're trying to say and their inability to be able to say it, and the tragedy in that, and the fact that causes such friction. I have seen of Sarah Gavran. This is Sarah Gavran's third feature film. I haven't seen Brick Wall, but I have seen Suffragettes. Now, Suffragettes, I remember at the time liking, but thinking I had issues with it. I seem to remember that there was an issue I had with the narrative where it was trying to do two things at once and struggling to keep them hold it together, which is it's trying to tell the genuine story of a woman who is the abuses and the struggles that she goes through in everyday life in that society, and why she slowly realises that she wants to support the suffragette movement. But then it's also trying to broadly explain where the suffragettes is and bring in some of the key figures. And the problem I remember at the time is I struggled with it, with the fact it wanted to try and do both. Whether it wanted to be a piece that represented this certain key figures and moments in the suffragette movement, and the story of a character. But I understood that Sarah Gavran was what she was trying to do, and I recognised at the time that she had real craftsmanship. It's just this was such an ambitious narrative to try to contain. And what I like really about Rocks is the fact that it's much more stripped down. She's not trying to make broad statements socially or politically. She is just trying to tell a character's story, and then from that we draw our own conclusions about, you know, society and you know, the like I say, the vulnerability of children who go through experiences like this. And as I say, what I think really brings that across is the fact that it doesn't stylize it. It is a very it's a very social realist style. Funny enough, it actually does make me think back to what I watched last week with the Ken Loach film, Poor Cow, where again it's not trying to pass comment, it is just trying to relay the experience of this person. And it's funny, thinking of Ellen, that the problem I had with Ellen was the fact that it sometimes would slip into trying to be stylized and trying to have these slightly more artistic set pieces, and that felt incompatible with the social realist narrative in places. Whereas Rocks really does try and succeed at maintaining this particular style. It does a curious, if there is anything stylized, it does this thing with the iPhone where it will slip between the scenes as traditionally shot to iPhone footage, where we'll observe certain things or information or almost not scenarios through the iPhone lens. And it's a curious way to do it, but it does feel very contemporary, and it does feel very authentic to how characters would interact with the world, and the idea that certain things they would look at through their iPhone, or that experience, you know, will learn information through an iPhone, and that really does have a contemporary, solidly contemporary feel to it. But yeah, I think this is a really solid film, and I completely understand why it's been nominated as much as 7 BAFTA nominations, and I would be surprised if it doesn't go away with at least a couple of them, because I think this, as a piece of social realist character study narrative about, you know, urban inner city London, I think it's a really, really solid piece of work, and it really has a lot to say, and I think it's really very, very good. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you liked this video, please click the like button, and subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more videos, and click that bell if you want to get notifications when I put more uploads. I do have a back catalogue now, quite a hefty back catalogue of films, so please do go back and check some of them out. And if you could follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I'm tweeting always about films and TV shows, and of course I'm putting links up to videos that I've uploaded. Thank you for joining me. Take care.